Ron Brinson is the councilman for North Charleston City Council's District 4 area. He tells me what projects he's working on for the area and what's next for the city of North Charleston for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. North Charleston Councilman Ron Brinson, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Good morning. Great to be here.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it greatly. Obviously, you're the councilman for North Charleston City Council's District 4. Let me ask you, what's new, what's now with your district?
Well, what's now, we'll go in reverse order, is we have a great growth pattern in this part of our city. Primarily Dorchester County. The recent census confirmed that population up here grew about 40%. So our city's having to adjust. We're working very closely now with Dorchester County to address road issues, school issues, just general planning issues. I also have some constituents in Charleston County, and they're very much similarly situated. Traffic is a huge burden for residents all over the Lowcountry, particularly in this part of it. What's new? Well, we've got a new Aquatic Center that was opened a little over a year ago. It's been amazingly popular, both with folks who just like to swim for physical fitness, and it's also an asset for schools and the competitive swimmers. We've seen some national meets, and this is an example of how when governmental agencies work together, good things can happen. We did this project in collaboration and partnership with Dorchester District 2 schools. Now we have right next to the Aquatic Center, we have a Dorchester County library. That's very interesting in that Dorchester County Council and its Library Commission, we were helping every way we could, but the Dorchester County agencies worked together and figured out a way to design this library so that the front of it would be a public library and the back of it would replace the Library Media Center at Fort Dorchester High School. And so what will happen is we will have a brand new facility for the public and for the school, but it will free up space within the school for much needed classrooms. So we've got a lot of good things going on here, but we also have to deal with the railing and persistent problems of quality of life, namely traffic.
Yes, sir. Let me ask you this, Mr. Brinson. How much money has the Center generated for the city and Dorchester District 2 so far?
How much money?
Yes, sir.
Well, are you talking about tax revenues?
Yes, sir. Exactly right.
Well, tax revenues, of course, are tied to property values, and in some cases, yes, activities. What we have seen over the last 20-odd years is that the number of tax dollars collected in Dorchester County related to North Charleston have quadrupled. So Dorchester County is paying its fair share of taxes for the support of our city, for sure.
Yes.
The Aquatic Center was a $25 million project.
Right.
The library is going to come in right around 10. All of these capital investments are covered through revenues related to activities such as restaurant bills, hotel bills, and some school taxes involved too.
And how much are those school taxes?
Well, I can't remember the exact, I don't serve on the school board. I serve on city council. But let me just tell you,
Yes,
Dorchester District 2 schools they have a really heavy demand burden, and they are always trying to find fresh capital to build schools. And one reason for that is that they do such a good job. It's one of the highest performing school districts in our state.
Yes, sir. So let me ask you this, Mr. Brinson. What is your fresh capital, obviously, for traffic and infrastructure in that growing part of your district in North Charleston?
Well, we depend primarily on South Carolina Department of Transportation for the arterial roadways, Dorchester Road, for example. We work very closely with Dorchester County on what we call neighborhood roadways. What's interesting at this moment is that Dorchester County will have a proposition on the ballot in the coming general election to extend its current 1-cent sales tax for roadways. Technically, this is not a new tax. It is, in fact, an extension of the 1-cent sales tax. Over the proposed term, this will raise some $700 million, which will allow Dorchester County to leverage capital investments. One of the most popular projects that they're committing to is the widening of Dorchester Road. And what's interesting about this, Quintin, is that Charleston County committed a couple of years ago to invest in the widening of Dorchester Road, 1 lane in each direction, up to the Dorchester County line. So if that were to happen, you'd have an immediate bottleneck. So we're very, very pleased to see that Dorchester County is going to try to match that, reboot its program, and take care of the heavily traveled Dorchester Road.
And what other roads do you want to get accomplished, obviously finish and accomplish in your district?
Well, we want to see improvements along all of our neighborhood roads. One of the problems that we have is cut-through traffic. This is a problem all over the Low Country, and especially up here. Folks want the quickest access to the interstate, and so they will find neighborhood streets. And who can blame them, Quintin? You know, if we could just take a few seconds here to think about the math. If over, say, a period of 1 year, a commuter finds that the commute, the travel to and from work, increases, say, 10 minutes in each direction, that's 20 minutes per day. That's an hour every 3 days. And then when you start measuring that over a period of a full year, you're talking about days, additional days behind the wheel trying to get to and from work. We're very hopeful, too, that the Carter plan for the bus rapid transit system will relieve some of this. Now, I personally think that will take some time, but it is definitely a step in the right direction. Old Charleston is still Old Charleston, wonderfully dynamic place. It is certainly the nexus of the Low Country, but Greater Charleston, regional Charleston, is coming alive. And I think we're just, we're not at the end of a growth cycle. We're just at the beginning, because folks from all over the country find this place very, very desirable to live, to work, and to play. Now,
Yes, sir. So talk to me about this more, because I want to know this. What are the growth projections right now for the city of North Charleston?
Steady as you go. Steady as you go. We do see some stabilizing in terms of population growth down in the central part of our city. The Park Circle area is still very dynamic. We expect maybe a little bit slower growth trend in our section of Dorchester County, simply because there's not a whole lot of land left to develop. But steady as you go, and I think that applies for Greater Charleston generally.
Now, where else in the city of North Charleston do you see that slower population trend happening?
Well, what we see is a transformation in the lower part of our city, where from the peninsula, where we're seeing a lot of properties committed to commercial uses. Our planners are taking a good hard look at that. We have some very venerable historic neighborhoods down there. And I can tell you, City Council is very, very keen on making sure those are preserved.
And how exactly are those areas? And I know about the South End because that's my running route. But how are those neighborhoods being obviously preserved right now?
Well, they have really good neighborhood structures and historic, and gentrification is it's not an abstraction. I mean, gentrification means highest economic use, and with the advent of the port coming in, folks from all over the country are looking at what properties they can buy and redevelop to become a part of this commercial dynamic. While that's going on, we need to think about these neighborhoods and how best to protect them. And that's something, it's not in my district, but I promise you, I speak to my colleagues, particularly Mike Brown, District 10, about this very, very often. Yeah.
Okay. And I know that's Mike Brown Senior's district down there, but let me ask you this. Okay, what properties are being sold right now? What properties are actually being redeveloped in that area?
Well, I think it's on a parcel by parcel basis, but one only has to look at what's going on around the new port and think about it over a 10, 15-year period. It's something we have to get our arms around for sure. Yep.
Yes, sir. And let me talk to you about this because obviously changes is happening a lot in the city of North Charleston, and everything costs us money, obviously, these days. So let me ask you this. How is the city's budget being prepared right now?
It's being prepared in a very, very thoughtful way, Quintin. Let's step back just for a second and understand that every municipality, and especially the large, faced very serious challenges during the pandemic, where we saw suddenly a depletion of what I call enterprise revenues. Folks weren't going to restaurants. They weren't staying in hotels. They weren't buying things. And that had an immediate impact on municipal revenue bases. Charleston, North Charleston, Mount Pleasant, Somerville, everyone faced the same problems. We decided early on that we were going to control this on a cost basis, and Mayor Summey did a great job in kind of creating a disciplined approach. We got through the pandemic probably in terms of financial strength as strong as we have ever been. That discipline continues. Budget is prepared on an annual basis. Fiscal year beginning July 1st, we have a public budget workshop every April, and we go over department by department, study it out, all very transparently, again in a public forum. Then the budget is exacted. We haven't raised any taxes in many years, and I frankly don't see the need to raise taxes in this coming year, but we will see. We're also looking at a number of things to supplement and assist our police department. You know, we are all aware that policing is not just about strict law enforcement. It can also be socio-economic issues that police professionals have to deal with. We have a number of non-government organizations, NGOs, nonprofits who are doing some very interesting things. Some of those are being screened now for grants. That's probably an initiative that will come to fruition here in the next month or so. Our city is trying to do new things, new ways financially, and I give our mayor and his team a lot of credit for creating the discipline that has brought us to this point of strength.
Yes, sir. How many nonprofits are you all looking at right now?
Oh, I think the list is probably in excess of 30. It's all being screened in the police department. Chief Burgess is heading it up. And what I think our city is looking for is any additional tool that can help our police provide the level of community policing that we all want to achieve.
What is the community policing right now in the city of North Charleston?
Now, well, actually, it is quite literally community policing. Chief Burgess and his team have they are in regular touch with neighborhood leaders, and in a word, they simply try to provide the level of policing that any given neighborhood or part of the community feels that they need or that they deserve. It's a different proposition when you go up into the far reaches of Dorchester County than it is in, say, the Lower Dorchester road corridor. And that's a reality that's being addressed. And I know I'm heaping a lot of praise here, but Chief Burgess does it as good as any police chief in the country.
Now, how is the current police department equipped to deal with the current violence and new gun violence in the city?
Well, again, let's go up to a national level. This is a problem all over the country. All over the country. Gun violence is an epidemic. I think it's a public health epidemic. It's a problem with many, many causes. And as we try to line up affiliations with these NGOs, that's in recognition that our police department is looking for any help that they can get. We've got issues with parenting. We've got issues with, where the hell do these guns come from? I mean, how do young teenagers get guns? What part of this is related to so-called gangs? It's just not an easy equation to solve. Again, it's a national problem, and we're going to deal with it as best we can here with the help of the community. And again, Mayor Summey, Chief Burgess, they're trying to be ahead of this.
Now, speaking of which, I know the city is planning to create a 24/7 real-time surveillance center that will monitor, according to the city, every inch of the city. As of April of this year, the plan for the so-called Joint Operations Center will include the purchase of 745 surveillance cameras, 34 automatic license plate readers, a data dashboard for compiling surveillance feeds from those privately and publicly owned cameras and walls of videos and monitors. Let me ask you this, Mr. Brinson. Why this? Why now?
Well, this is a very sophisticated crime control initiative. It is a very sophisticated public safety initiative. And by that I mean, if we say, for example, we have a hurricane, this system can be deployed to help with evacuations. So it's not just about cops chasing robbers or those with perpetuating gun violence. It is truly a public safety initiative. Why now? The police department has been researching this based on best practices all over the country for the last 3 years. And last year, a group of city council members, and I was among them, we went to Charlotte to see an example of this. So what this will do, we already have cameras, and by the way, they have been really instrumental in solving a number of horrible crimes. But this will put cameras on every major highway. It will also allow businesses to plug in, and over time, it will also create the options for neighborhoods and individual residents to be plugged in. And the key is real-time monitoring. We'll have a technology center right at City Hall that's already being designed. And with that, professional police monitors will be watching the entire city it's the equivalent of having another 20 policemen on the street. This is the way technology can be applied, and North Charleston is doing it and doing it in a very impressive way, I think.
Why can't the city fund the communities first?
What's that?
Why can't the city fund the communities first?
And what do you mean by that?
Yes, sir. Before developing this center, why can't the city actually fund the communities first? See what the community needs. Yes, sir. Yeah, fund the community.
Well, I think we've tried to do that. Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you this: could this particular center lead to the criminalization of gentrifying neighborhoods?
I don't think so. And by the way, I think that's a fair question. I think another fair question is, does this cross any privatization boundaries? I've personally looked at this in terms of case studies from several parts of the country. I don't see that. I see it as an asset. And I see it as an asset for communities that really need this kind of police technology. I will also tell you that I think there is a mindset that if we ever do see that it's going in directions that it shouldn't, City Council will act to limit it. But don't see that now. I see it as a response to a police department that is determined to be state of the art in terms of community policing.
Reportedly, this will take 3 years to implement, but they have obviously the money has been set aside for the center already in the FY23 budget. Do you know what alternatives that you all are going to use for now, for as far as surveillance until the center is actually completed?
Well, what we've got now, what's happening is that the camera system, as you have described it, and the technology center at City Hall are being developed incrementally. It will probably take a couple of years for it to all be in place. We're talking about another, 700 cameras. Most of those are. Think about this. So most of those will be on power poles that are controlled by Dominion, and Dominion has been very, very helpful. But they're kind of done one at a time. So it's going to take some time. But I'm convinced that our police department will get there.
It will be partly funded by selling city property. Do you know where those properties are right now?
Well, that's just, let's back up for a second. Now, the technology center will be funded by the program sale of some surplus properties. That's the technology center.
Okay.
The equipment itself and the operations will be funded from the city's budget, operating budget. The properties, again, are surplus properties. Every year we dispose of properties. So, and we're talking about, I don't remember exactly, but I think it's a little less than $2 million.
So why do you think City Council is lumping this into the FY23 budget?
Well, FY23 that's the current budget.
Yes, sir.
And so we want to get it built so that as these cameras come online, we will in fact have a real-time public safety monitoring system.
Now, do you fear that more people will be stopped by the police as a result of this particular surveillance?
No, I don't think so. I think what will happen if we're talking only about very conventional, defined police operations, is you're going to find more bad guys being caught. I'm not a fan of policemen stopping folks because they've got a license plate light out. I don't think that's what this is intended to do at all. It's intended that if someone creates a major crime, and we've seen these cameras solve murders, that they know they're going to be caught, or there's a higher chance that they're going to be caught. Yep.
And now, with that center being funded, who is actually designing that right now, as far as an architect?
I'm not sure there's an architect involved. There are vendors who create we've got the space. It's going to be
Okay.
on the ground floor of
Okay.
City Hall.
Okay.
And basically what it is, it's like an air traffic control system,
Okay.
you know, and these professionals sit in front of these screens, and if there's a police call or a public safety issue, then they begin monitoring it in real time.
So how many additional people will you hire to be downstairs in that center?
I think it could range anywhere up to 20. 20 professionals. You've got to remember now,
Yes, sir.
they're 24 hours in a day.
Yes.
And the manpower aspects of it have been well thought out by our police department.
Now, I know that I guess maybe it was a year or two ago that the city actually had a nearly 18 million financial shortfall in the budget. The last time I spoke with Mayor Summy, to close that financial shortfall, how should the budget target reductions be allocated across departments?
I'm sorry, I've been on city council now for 12 years. I don't remember any shortfall at all. So we're going to have to recalibrate that question. We haven't had any deficits and we haven't had any shortfalls. We always wish we had more money to put into the budget, but we start every fiscal year with a balanced budget. And for as long as I've been on council, we finished each fiscal year within budget. Yeah.
What's the current revenue trends for the city?
What's that?
What's the
Current revenue trends?
Yes, sir.
Good question, Quintin. First of all, property taxes. And you know what's interesting? Most residents don't realize this, but property taxes, residential property taxes, do not cover the cost of fire and police. So now we've got to have commercial revenues taxes, and with commercial development, we see those revenues going up. Of course, we have every time a property is sold,
right,
it is assessed at the market value, which is trending higher. So property taxes are definitely trending higher. Over the last 2 years coming out of the pandemic, we've seen hospitality taxes, that would be restaurants, sales taxes, people are spending money. Inflation is driving up the cost of just about everything. So our tax revenues at this moment tend to be trending what we call in a northeastern direction on a graph, meaning steadily upward, which means we don't have to raise any taxes in terms of residential basis.
Now,
another thing is that our city is sort of the crossroads for the low country economy.
yes,
Most North Charleston residents, they just don't stop to think that every workday, our city of 120,000 people grows to over 200,000 because of all the people who come to work in our city. Boeing is an excellent example. We have almost 2/3 of the low country's Class A office space. We're very hopeful for some other good news here pretty soon with regard to the relocation of Roper Hospital.
right.
Not a done deal quite yet, but we're coming to our city.
Now, with all of this, and as you know, Mayor Summy values tourism in the city. How will you all hope to keep attracting tourists and businesses when the violence in the city is really so high, Councilman?
Well, violence again is a problem all over. Our sister cities nearby, they're having the same trends that we have. Have you checked Chicago lately, or praise be New York City lately? This is a national issue. I think businesses are inclined to consider the Low Country and our city, or specifically, are impressed with what our police departments do. I think they are impressed with our mindset that we're going to always be trying to deal with this. We will never accept gun violence as a way of life. And again, the equation for that solution is a tough one, but we're not going to give up. Yep. And I think that's what these investors, these economic development investors will see, is that determination. I'm going, as soon as we finish here, I'm going to a groundbreaking.
Right.
I'm at a Commerce Parkway.
Oh, yes.
Another 40 or 50 jobs, paying jobs. Yeah.
Wow. And going back to that, you talked earlier about commercial revenue and commercial development. Where else is the commercial development headed towards in the city of North Charleston?
Well, I'm at Commerce Parkway, which was created by Charleston County maybe 15, 20 years ago. It was finally connected so that it runs from Latson Road 5.75 miles to Ashley Phosphate. It was connected in 2010. When I first got on council, 1,700 people worked there full time. Today, that number is 9,000, and we expect to top 10,000 by 2025. We have seen Roper, for example, transfer all of its administration and IT operations there. We have Mercedes, Cummins. We have an Israeli company building military tanks. It is just a very diverse corridor of economic activity. And it still has a lot of vacant space. So we see the Common Commerce Parkway, the Ingleside corridor, as being a high growth center.
Wow. And let me ask you this, because I know that this is reports that I've gotten $2.3 million of federal money have been given to the city since 2020, I believe. Do you know what accountability of the grants that the city has distributed so far that you've personally seen or read about?
Most of that is kind of standard stuff for municipalities. Actually, we got $23 million in pandemic funds from the federal government. And all of that was very carefully expended through very public, very transparent processes. We get grants for the police department, matching grants. Maybe they're helping subsidize additional policemen on the street. Some fire programs get federal grants. We try to take advantage of every opportunity that we can to get grants that will enhance our ability to serve our citizens.
So how soon will we see the federal, state, and the local infrastructure projects begin in North Charleston?
Well, again, most of the, if you're thinking about the federal infrastructure, that's mostly coordinated by South Carolina Department of Transportation.
Okay. And will the city's older communities be a part of this process when the city does eventually get those?
I sure hope so.
Okay.
Yeah.
What communities are currently being considered as priority right now?
Every one of them.
Okay. So what proportion or percentage of the infrastructure budget will go to new development versus communities well over 50 years?
I don't know the answer to that. Again, I think a lot of this is going to be controlled by the state. But again, we will be looking for every opportunity to make sure that what I call the venerable neighborhoods that define our city's history are well served. I grew up in North Charleston, and I'm very proud of that. I went away for 24 years, but came home. And, our city is really layered with a lot of very, very interesting history. And that is absolutely related to these neighborhoods.
Now, okay, what percentage of this budget will go to bridges and overpasses to eliminate automobile traffic at train crossings, accidents, and obviously congestions?
Well, they could give it all to us because I think that's a big problem. We are seeing Charleston County, for example, has a project now to create an overpass of Ashley Phosphate. Common Commerce Parkway would fly over Ashley Phosphate. That then leaves us with the question of, okay, well, what happens when the North Southern trains, come flying through at the Ashley Phosphate corridor 4 or 5 times a day, and it backs traffic up for 10 or 15 minutes. That's a reality that we have, and there aren't any easy answers. I mean, the railroads have absolute rights to do this, and they very seldom coordinate with municipalities based on the convenience of motorists. So we've got to come up with some magical tricks to solve that question.
I want to get you back on Quintin's close-ups in the next couple of months, because I want to talk to you obviously about Rivers Avenue, the corridor, and the future development of the waterfront as well.
Oh, well,
yes,
you're talking about the Old Navy base.
Yes, well, that's part of my running route too. Yes,
very exciting. Yeah. Great place to run too, and there's going to be a new bridge.
Yes,
a new footbridge there that. We lost Ray Anderson to sudden death last week, and the mayor announced yesterday that he's going to propose to City Council that this bridge be named for Ray Anderson, because he was so instrumental in the planning and implementation, not only of that project, but so many others during his 3 decades of service to our city. I think City Council will do that unanimously, and applaud the mayor for proposing it. The north end of the base got off to a rather staggered start. The Great Recession sort of caught up with it. But the plans are coming together now. The old residential office buildings out there, most of them have been restored. They've become venues for a lot of social occasions like weddings.
Yes.
The park is just a huge success. Looking at how to improve traffic flows in parking. And this walkway, this little bridge, is really going to add to it.
Yes,
we're going to see some residential units going out there. So I'm glad you're watching how this is evolving, because it's going to be something special.